Captain Devon Jackson's hands gripped the controls as his medical ship cut through space. The emergency beacon was weak but clear. Someone needed help out there in the dark void between star systems. His crew had answered thousands of distress calls, but this one felt different. "Captain, I'm getting strange readings," called out Dr. Tanisha Brooks from her station. She was the best trauma surgeon in the fleet, and if she sounded concerned, Devon paid attention. "The ship's sending the signal, it's not human design." Devon's blood ran cold. The signature on his scanner matched Kalari Empire technology. These weren't just any aliens, they were humanity's greatest enemy. For 5 years, both species had danced on the edge of total war. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, and billions could die. "Sir, should we report this to command?" asked Lieutenant Rashad Williams, his tactical officer. The young man's finger hovered over the communication controls, ready to call in the military. "Not yet," Devon said quietly. He stared at the damaged ship floating dead in space. Through the view screen, he could see hull breaches and flickering emergency lights. "Someone's dying in there." Dr. Brooks shook her head. "Captain, this could be a trap. The Kalari are known for their deception tactics. What if they are waiting for us to get close?" Devon understood her fear. Everyone had heard the stories. Kalari warriors stood 8 feet tall with natural crystal armor covering their bodies. They could tear through steel with their bare hands and had technology that seemed almost magical. But right now, all he saw was a broken ship with fading life signs. "Run a deep scan," he ordered. "I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The scanner hummed to life, sending invisible waves through space to probe the damaged vessel. The results made everyone on the bridge go silent. The ship wasn't just any Kalari vessel, it was a royal cruiser. The kind that carried the Empire's most important leaders. "Captain," Dr. Brooks whispered, "there are survivors aboard. I count at least 12 life signs, but they're getting weaker by the minute." Devon closed his eyes and thought about his oath as a doctor. He'd sworn to save lives regardless of who needed saving. But he also thought about his crew, his responsibility to keep them safe. One wrong decision could start a war that would consume entire worlds. The comm system crackled to life with a weak transmission from the damaged ship. The voice was distorted, speaking in the crystal-like tones of the Kalari language, but the universal translator picked up the meaning. "Please, help us, children aboard." That word, children, hit Devon like a physical blow. Whatever else the Kalari might be, they had families just like humans did. Somewhere in that dying ship, young lives were slipping away. "Prepare the docking tube," he commanded. "We're going aboard." "Sir, I strongly advise against this," Lieutenant Williams protested. "If this is a trap then we'll deal with it," Devon cut him off. "But I won't let children die because I was too afraid to help." The docking procedure took precious minutes. Every second counted when dealing with life support failures. As the airlocks connected, Devon suited up in his medical gear. Dr. Brooks insisted on coming with him, along with 2 security officers and a medical technician. The moment they stepped aboard the Kalari ship, the differences hit them. Everything was built for beings much larger than humans. The corridors stretched high above their heads, and the walls seemed to shimmer with an inner light. But damage was damage in any language: twisted metal, sparking electronics, and the acrid smell of failing life support systems. They followed their scanners deeper into the ship, past injured Kalari warriors who looked at them with a mixture of shock and desperate hope. These proud beings, who had fought humanity across a dozen star systems, were now completely helpless. In the ship's lower levels, Devon found something that changed everything. A young Kalari female lay trapped under debris, her crystal-like skin flickering with weak bioluminescent patterns. But unlike the other Kalari they'd seen, her body was different. Her natural armor plating was incomplete, and her lower limbs were malformed in a way that clearly prevented normal movement. "She's barely alive," Dr. Brooks reported, running her medical scanner over the young alien. "Multiple injuries, and her biosigns are failing fast." What struck Devon most was how the other Kalari survivors looked away when they saw the girl. There was something in their expressions, not just concern, but shame. As if her very existence embarrassed them. "We're taking her," Devon decided, carefully lifting the girl in his arms. She was surprisingly light despite her size, and her crystal skin felt warm against his gloves. "Captain," his security chief warned, "enemy ships just dropped out of hyperspace. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they reach us." Devon ran through the corridors, the disabled Kalari princess cradled in his arms, as alarms began blaring throughout both ships. The bridge of Devon's medical ship erupted in chaos as massive Kalari warships surrounded them. Each vessel was 3 times the size of his small medical transport, their hulls gleaming with that strange crystal technology that made them nearly indestructible. Warning lights flashed red as his tactical system screamed about weapons being charged. "Captain, they're demanding we lower our shields and prepare to be boarded," Lieutenant Williams reported, his voice tight with fear. "Should I signal for backup?" "No," Devon said firmly. "Any military response will just make this worse. We're medical personnel, not soldiers." Dr. Brooks looked up from her patient monitors in the medical bay. "The Calari girl is stable for now, but she needs surgery soon. Her internal injuries are severe." Before Devon could respond, the air in front of him began to shimmer and bend. The temperature dropped several degrees as reality itself seemed to fold inward. His crew stepped back in alarm as a figure began to materialize out of thin air. Queen Talvira appeared in a flash of blue light, and Devon immediately understood why the Calari Empire was so feared. She stood nearly 9 feet tall, her crystalline armor reflecting the bridge lights like a living prism. Her crown was carved from what looked like solid starlight, and her eyes glowed with an inner fire that seemed to burn right through him. Behind her, 4 elite guards materialized in the same manner. Each warrior carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy, and their armor bore scars from countless battles. These weren't regular soldiers, they were the Queen's personal protectors, the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. The Queen's voice filled the bridge like distant thunder. "I am Talvira, ruler of the Calari Empire. You have taken something that belongs to me." Devon stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "Your Majesty, we responded to a distress call. We found survivors and provided medical aid. Do not play games with me, human." The Queen's bioluminescent patterns flared brighter, a sign of anger that every human had learned to fear. "My intelligence reports tell me you specifically rescued my daughter. The question is why?" Dr. Brooks emerged from the medical bay, her hands still covered in surgical gloves. "Your Majesty, your daughter was critically injured. We've managed to stabilize her condition, but she needs immediate surgery to survive." The Queen's expression shifted to something Devon couldn't quite read. It wasn't relief or gratitude, it was something closer to confusion, maybe even suspicion. "You speak of my daughter as if her life has value," Queen Talvira said slowly. "This puzzles me greatly." Devon felt his crew exchange worried glances. There was something strange in the Queen's tone, something that suggested this wasn't just about a parent worried for her child. "Of course her life has value," Devon replied. "She's young, she's injured, and she needed help. That's all we needed to know." The Queen's guards shifted nervously as their ruler began pacing the small bridge. Her massive form made the space feel cramped, and every step she took made the deck plates vibrate. "Captain." She paused, clearly struggling with something. "What do you know of Calari customs?" "Not much," Devon admitted. "We haven't exactly had peaceful contact between our species." Queen Talvira stopped pacing and fixed him with that burning stare. "In my empire, strength is everything. The strong survive, the weak perish. It is the natural order that has made us the most powerful civilization in this galaxy." Dr. Brooks frowned. "What does that have to do with your daughter?" The Queen's bioluminescent patterns dimmed, and for a moment she looked almost ashamed. "My daughter was born Kethmel, broken-formed, as we say. Her body lacks the natural armor and mobility that marks a true Calari. By our laws, by our most sacred traditions, she should have been cast out at birth." The human crew stood in shocked silence. Devon felt his stomach turn as he began to understand what the Queen was telling them. "You mean?" Lieutenant Williams started, then stopped himself. "I mean that my own people would consider her life worthless," the Queen finished. "A burden to be discarded. Even I." Her voice broke slightly. "Even I have struggled with the shame of her existence." The medical bay doors opened, and they could all see the young Calari princess lying on the surgical table, connected to human medical equipment. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed weakly but steadily. "So you see my confusion, Captain," Queen Talvira continued. "You are our enemies. You have no obligation to us, no reason to show mercy. Yet you risked your ship and your crew to save someone that even her own mother has doubted was worth saving." Devon looked at the sleeping girl, then back at the most powerful being in the known galaxy, a being who was clearly tormented by her own actions and beliefs. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I think we need to talk." Queen Talvira dismissed her guards with a gesture that made them vanish like smoke. The massive alien ruler now stood alone with Captain Devon and his crew in the quiet medical bay. Her daughter lay peacefully on the human surgical table, breathing steadily for the first time in hours. The queen's towering form seemed to shrink as she approached the bed. Her crystalline fingers hovered just inches above her daughter's face, as if she was afraid to actually touch her. The bioluminescent patterns on her armor had dimmed to barely a whisper of light. "She looks so peaceful," the queen whispered, her voice losing all its earlier authority. "I cannot remember the last time I saw her without pain etched across her features." Dr. Brooks quietly checked the monitoring equipment. "The surgery was successful, Your Majesty. We were able to repair the internal damage from the crash. She should make a full recovery." Recovery? Queen Talvira repeated the word like it was foreign to her. "On my world, there is no recovery for ones like her. There is only endurance." Devon watched the queen carefully. This wasn't the fierce ruler who commanded fear across the galaxy. This was a mother struggling with something that was tearing her apart inside. "Your Majesty, can I ask you something?" Devon said gently. "If your people believe your daughter has no value, why did you keep her alive?" The queen's shoulders sagged. "That is the question that has haunted me for 16 cycles of our moon. By every law, every tradition, every belief that makes us Kalari, I should have let her die at birth. It would have been merciful." She turned away from the bed, her back rigid with tension. "Do you know what it is like to be torn between duty and instinct? Between what your entire civilization tells you is right and what your heart whispers in the darkness?" Lieutenant Williams shifted uncomfortably. "I can't imagine, Your Majesty. Every day I looked at her, I saw weakness. Every stumble, every struggle, every moment she could not keep up with her siblings, it reminded me that I had failed as a ruler. That I was too weak to do what needed to be done." The queen's voice grew harder. "My advisors whispered that keeping her alive made me appear soft. That other empires would see this as a sign that the Kalari were growing weak. Some even suggested that enemies might target her to hurt me." Dr. Brooks looked up from her charts. "But you protected her anyway." "I hid her," Queen Talvira corrected bitterly. "I kept her in the palace, away from public view. I told myself I was protecting her, but the truth is I was protecting myself from the shame of what I had done." She turned back to face Devon, and he could see centuries of pain in those glowing eyes. "So when I received word that she was aboard that ship, when I learned that it had been attacked and damaged, part of me thought, perhaps this is the universe correcting my mistake." "But you came for her," Devon pointed out. "I came to retrieve my surviving warriors," the queen said quickly. "The fact that she was rescued was unexpected." Devon studied the queen's face. Even without knowing Kalari expressions well, he could see she was lying to herself as much as to him. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "if you really believed she was worthless, you wouldn't have traveled here personally. You could have sent subordinates." Queen Talvira's bioluminescent patterns flared briefly, anger, Devon thought, but not at him. At herself. "You dare to psychoanalyze me, human?" But there was no real threat in her voice. "I'm just trying to understand," Devon replied. "Because what I see is a mother who loves her daughter but has been told by her entire society that this love is wrong." The queen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "When she was small, she would create the most beautiful light patterns with her bioluminescence. Complex designs that none of us had ever seen before. Her mind works differently than ours, she sees connections and possibilities that escape even our greatest thinkers." She looked down at her daughter's sleeping form. "But none of that matters in a society that only values physical strength and the ability to fight." "It mattered to you," Dr. Brooks said softly. "Did it?" The queen's laugh was bitter. "Then why did I spend 16 years hiding her away like some shameful secret? Why did I never let her contribute her unique gifts to our civilization?" Devon took a step closer to the queen. "Your Majesty, I need to ask you something directly, and I need you to be honest with both of us." Queen Talvira straightened, her royal bearing returning. "Speak. Why did you really come here? Not the official reason, the real reason." The queen looked down at her daughter, then back at Devon. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of a confession that had been locked away for years. "Because when I heard she might die, I realized something that terrified me more than any enemy fleet." She paused, struggling with the words. "I realized that losing her would destroy me completely." Devon looked at the queen standing beside her daughter's bed, and he could see the weight of 16 years crushing down on her shoulders. This wasn't just about one rescue anymore, this was about everything the Kalari Empire believed was true about strength and worth. "Your Majesty," Devon said quietly, "you asked me why we saved your daughter. The answer isn't complicated, but it might be hard for you to understand. Queen Talvira turned those burning eyes toward him. Enlighten me, Captain. What could possibly make an enemy risk everything for someone my own people would abandon? Devon activated his personal tablet and pulled up a photo. It showed a young black woman in a laboratory coat, smiling as she worked with complex medical equipment. This is Dr. Keisha Roberts. She's our head researcher for adaptive medical technology. She was born with a condition that affects her muscle control and mobility. On your world, she would probably be considered Kethmel. The Queen stared at the image. She appears to be working. How is this possible? Because we built our society around helping people succeed, not throwing them away, Devon explained. Dr. Roberts has invented medical devices that have saved millions of lives. The very equipment keeping your daughter stable right now, she designed half of it. He swiped to another photo showing a man using sign language while teaching a classroom full of students. This is Professor Jordan Williams. He's been deaf since birth. He developed our universal communication systems that let us talk to dozens of different alien species. Without his work, we wouldn't even be able to have this conversation right now. Queen Talvira looked confused. But how can they contribute if they are broken? That's where you're wrong, Dr. Brooks interjected, moving closer. They're not broken. They're different. And different perspectives often lead to the greatest breakthroughs. Devon pulled up another image, this one showing his own family. This is my sister Alicia. She has what we call autism. Her brain works differently than most people's. Growing up, she struggled with social situations and had trouble in regular schools. So she was cast out, the Queen asked. No. We found ways to help her succeed. Today, she's one of our best engineers. Her ability to see patterns that others miss has revolutionized our spacecraft design. The ship you're standing on right now, she helped design its life support systems. The Queen's bioluminescent patterns flickered with what looked like disbelief. You are telling me that beings who would be considered defective in my empire have become valuable contributors to yours? More than valuable, Lieutenant Williams added. Essential. Some of our greatest advances have come from people who think differently, who see the world from angles the rest of us miss. Devon moved to the medical bay's main display screen and pulled up statistics. Your Majesty, let me show you something that might shock you. In human society, we found that workplaces and communities that include people with disabilities are actually more innovative, more creative, and more successful than those that don't. The numbers scrolled across the screen: productivity rates, innovation indices, problem-solving metrics. All consistently higher in diverse groups that included people with various abilities and disabilities. This cannot be accurate, Queen Talvira protested, but her voice lacked conviction. It is, Dr. Brooks said firmly. When you force everyone to think and act the same way, you miss solutions that only come from different perspectives. When you embrace those differences, you become stronger as a whole. Devon looked directly at the Queen. Your daughter's bioluminescent patterns that you mentioned, the complex ones no one else can create? That's not a side effect of her disability. That's her unique gift. He gestured toward the sleeping princess. On your world, she's seen as broken because she can't fight like other Kalari. But what if fighting isn't the only way to be strong? What if her different way of thinking could solve problems that brute force never could? You speak of theoretical possibilities, the Queen said, but Devon could hear doubt creeping into her voice. No, I speak from experience, he replied. Your Majesty, humanity learned something important over our history. We learned that when we take care of our most vulnerable members, when we find ways for everyone to contribute their gifts, our entire civilization becomes stronger. Dr. Brooks stepped forward. We had a saying on old Earth: a society is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable members. We discovered that protecting and nurturing those who are different doesn't make us weak, it makes us unstoppable. Devon saved the most powerful example for last. He pulled up a recording of the Galactic Council chambers, showing a diverse group of humans addressing alien leaders. This is our diplomatic corps, he said. Notice anything? Queen Talvira studied the image carefully. More than half the human representatives showed visible differences. Some used mobility devices, others had obvious physical variations, many showed signs of neurological differences. These are your leaders? She asked, startled. Our best and brightest, Devon confirmed. Because we learned that when you include everyone, when you value all kinds of minds and abilities, you get solutions that no one else can imagine. For the first time in 3 centuries of rule, Queen Talvira's composure completely shattered. The mighty ruler who had conquered star systems and commanded fear across the galaxy began to weep. Her crystalline tears fell like liquid diamonds, each one catching the medical bay's lights as they hit the floor. Her massive shoulders shook with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her soul. The bioluminescent patterns across her armor flickered wildly, cycling through colors that Devon's crew had never seen before, patterns that spoke of grief, regret, and a pain so profound it had been buried for decades. All those children, she whispered through her tears, her voice breaking like glass. All those beautiful, unique minds we threw away because they didn't fit our narrow idea of perfection. Dr. Brooks handed the Queen a towel, though it seemed impossibly small in her massive hands. Your Majesty, you couldn't have known. But I should have, Queen Talvira said, her voice raw with emotion. I am supposed to be wise. I am supposed to protect my people and help them grow. Instead, I've been destroying our greatest potential for generations. She looked down at her sleeping daughter, and her expression transformed. Where before there had been shame and hidden love, now there was something new, pride mixed with devastating regret. Look at her, the Queen said, gently touching her daughter's hand. Even now, even unconscious, her bioluminescent patterns are more complex than anything our greatest artists have ever created. She's been trying to communicate with us in ways we never bothered to learn. Lieutenant Williams approached carefully. Your Majesty, it's not too late. You can change things. The Queen straightened slowly, and Devon could see something fundamental shifting in her posture. The weight she'd been carrying for so long seemed to be transforming into determination. You are right, young human, she said, her voice gaining strength. It is not too late for my daughter, but I fear it may be too late for countless others we have already lost. She activated a communication device built into her armor, and suddenly the medical bay was filled with holographic displays showing Kalari worlds across the Empire. Government buildings, military bases, civilian centers, all connected in a vast network that spanned dozens of star systems. Citizens of the Kalari Empire, Queen Talvira's voice boomed across the communication network, reaching billions of her subjects simultaneously. Your Queen speaks to you from a human medical vessel, where I have learned something that will change us forever. Devon's crew watched in amazement as the Queen's image was broadcast to every corner of her empire. On the displays, they could see crowds gathering, military commanders stopping their activities, and families coming together to listen. For too long, we have believed that strength comes only from physical power, the Queen continued. We have cast aside our children who were born different, believing they would weaken us. I stand before you now to say that this belief has been our greatest mistake. The displays showed shocked faces across the Kalari worlds. Some looked confused, others angry, but many seemed to be listening with desperate hope. I have seen what our enemies, no, what our new friends, have accomplished by embracing those we would call broken. They have built a civilization that surpasses ours not through force, but through the contributions of minds that think differently. Princess Lyanna began to stir on the medical table, her eyes fluttering open just as her mother spoke about her to the entire empire. My own daughter, whom I have hidden in shame, possesses gifts that could revolutionize our understanding of communication and art. But she is not alone. Across our empire, there are others like her, others we have abandoned or hidden away. The Queen's voice grew stronger with each word. Today, I decree an end to the practice of abandoning the Kethmal. From this moment forward, every Kalari child will be valued, protected, and given the chance to contribute their unique gifts to our society. The displays erupted in chaos, some cheering, others protesting, but the message was clear. The Kalari Empire would never be the same. Princess Lyanna sat up slowly, helped by Dr. Brooks. Her bioluminescent patterns began pulsing in rapid, complex sequences that seemed to respond to her mother's words. She's trying to communicate, Devon realized. Those patterns, they're not random. She's been developing her own language. Queen Talvira knelt beside the medical table, bringing her massive form down to her daughter's eye level. My precious child, can you forgive a foolish mother who took so long to see your true worth? The princess's patterns shifted to something that even the humans could recognize as pure joy. She reached out with trembling hands to touch her mother's face, and when she did, both their bioluminescent displays synchronized in perfect harmony. Captain Devon Jackson, the Queen said, rising to face him with tears still on her cheeks, I formally request that the Kalari Empire be allowed to learn from humanity. Will you help us build a society where everyone can shine? Devon smiled as he watched mother and daughter finally connecting in the way they should have years ago. Your Majesty, I think that would be the beginning of something beautiful. The transformation had begun.